Your productivity is not being destroyed by a lack of time. It is being destroyed by distraction. Every notification, every unnecessary check, every meaningless scroll, and every interruption trains your brain to abandon concentration. Deep work exposes a brutal truth. The ability to focus deeply is becoming rare and therefore increasingly valuable. But if distraction has become your default, your potential is being buried beneath constant interruption. This audiobook will expose 7 distraction habits destroying your productivity and show you why your attention must become your greatest asset. Chapter 1. Stop checking everything. Constant availability is killing your focus. Let's begin with one of the most common productivity lies. Checking your phone is not work. Checking your email is not work. Refreshing your messages is not work. Opening social media for just a second is not work. It feels productive because something is happening, something is moving, something is being answered, but movement is not progress. Checking is not productivity. Checking is interruption. You check your email, then you check a message, then you look at a notification, then you open another tab, then you return to the original task and realize your mind has already moved somewhere else. The interruption was only 10 seconds. The recovery takes much longer. That is the trap. The distraction does not have to steal an hour to damage your productivity. It only has to break your concentration. And once concentration is broken, you have to rebuild it again and again and again. This is why constantly checking everything is so dangerous. It trains your brain to expect something new every few moments. Your mind begins to associate work with interruption. Your attention becomes fragmented, your thinking becomes shallow, and eventually, deep concentration starts to feel uncomfortable. That is the key. You cannot build exceptional results with fragmented attention. Think about 2 people. One spends an hour answering 50 small messages, checking notifications, reacting to updates, and jumping between tasks. The other spends 1 uninterrupted hour solving one difficult problem. Who looks busier? Probably the first person. Who creates more valuable work? Probably the second. That distinction matters. Busy is not the same as productive. Activity is not achievement. You can spend an entire day responding to things and still finish nothing important. You can be exhausted and still be ineffective. You can feel occupied while your biggest goal remains untouched. That is not productivity. That is reaction. And reaction is one of the greatest enemies of deep work. So the first transformation is simple. Stop asking, what needs my attention right now? Start asking, what deserves my attention right now? Those are completely different questions. The first one makes you reactive. The second one makes you deliberate. Stop reacting. Start deciding. You have a choice. You do not have to answer every message immediately. You do not have to read every notification the second it appears. You do not have to remain permanently available. You have permission to disappear for an hour and do meaningful work. In fact, you need it, and you do not need their permission. Create friction between yourself and distraction. Turn off non-essential notifications. Close unnecessary browser tabs. Put the phone away during deep work sessions. Log out of distracting platforms. Create specific windows for checking communication. Maybe you check email at 9 a.m., again at 1, again at 4. The exact schedule matters less than the principle. You decide when checking happens, not the notification, not the app, not the message. You. Because relying on willpower alone is weak strategy. Make distraction harder to reach. Make focus easier to maintain.
Do not keep the temptation sitting beside you and then congratulate yourself every time you resist it. Remove the temptation. Protect the environment. Protect the attention. Protect the work. That's the key. This is not about becoming unreachable. It is about becoming intentional. You are not ignoring people. You are refusing to let every interruption outrank your priorities. It is not about being antisocial. It is not about being unavailable forever. It is not about distraction. It is about discipline. Discipline means deciding what gets your attention before the world starts demanding it. So today, identify the 3 things you check most compulsively: email, messages, social media, news. Whatever it is, create a boundary. Disable what does not need to alert you. Set a checking schedule. Protect one uninterrupted block of time. Start with 30 minutes, then 45, then 1 hour. Train the brain. Build the habit. Recover your ability to concentrate. Because your attention is not a small detail. Your attention determines the quality of your thinking. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your work. And the quality of your work determines the quality of your results. So, stop checking everything. Stop reacting to everything. Stop giving your attention away in tiny pieces. You have a choice. Choose focus. Choose depth. Choose deliberate work. Because when you stop allowing every little interruption to control your day, you take the first real step toward deep work. But checking is only the beginning, because even when the notifications stop, another distraction may still be controlling you. You may believe you can do it all at once. You cannot.
Chapter 2. Stop multitasking. Your brain cannot give everything full attention. Multitasking sounds impressive. It sounds efficient. It sounds like a person who can handle anything. But most of the time, multitasking is simply distraction wearing a productivity costume. You are writing an important report while answering messages. You are studying while checking social media. You are designing while jumping between videos, emails, and notifications. You are supposed to be thinking, but your attention is constantly changing direction. And every time it changes direction, something is lost. You cannot do deep work while constantly changing the target. That is the key. Your brain may appear to handle several things at once, but demanding mental tasks compete for the same limited attention. When you move away from one task and then return, part of your mind can remain attached to what you just left. You may be physically back, your attention may not be. That is why you can stare at the same paragraph 3 times and still not understand it. That is why you can open a design file, check a message, return to the design, open another tab, and suddenly forget what you were trying to create. That is why studying with your phone beside you can feel exhausting while producing surprisingly little learning. The problem is not always lack of intelligence. The problem is fragmented attention. Every switch costs something. Every distraction leaves a residue. Think about a student preparing for an important exam. They study for 10 minutes. A message arrives. They respond. They return to the book. Another notification appears. They check it. Then they remember an email they need to send. They open their laptop. They see another tab. They click it. 20 minutes later, they are still studying. But how much deep learning actually happened? Very little. Now think about a designer working on a major branding project. The designer begins with a clear concept. Then a client message appears. Then social media. Then email. Then a reference image. Then another project. Then back to the original design. The computer never stopped. The person never stopped. But the thinking was repeatedly interrupted. This is the hidden tax of switching. And that tax is expensive. You lose momentum, you lose context, you lose mental clarity, you increase the time required to finish difficult work. Then you make a dangerous mistake. You assume the task itself is taking too long.
Maybe the task is not taking too long. Maybe your attention is leaking. Busy is not the same as productive. Activity is not achievement. Opening 5 applications is not productivity. Answering messages while working is not productivity. Having 12 tabs open is not productivity. Doing 3 things badly is not more impressive than doing 1 thing exceptionally well. You have a choice. Choose one target, then protect it. This requires a different way of working. Before beginning a work session, define the target. Not, "I'm going to work." That is too vague. Say, "I will complete the first section. I will finish this design concept. I will solve these 10 problems. I will write 500 words." Now your brain has a destination. That matters because clarity reduces wandering. Give the session a beginning. Give it an objective. Give it a stopping point. Then remove competing targets. Close the unnecessary tabs. Put the phone away. Silence the alerts. Do not keep every possible distraction within reach and expect discipline to perform miracles. Create an environment that supports concentration. That's the key. One target, one block, one result. Start with 30 minutes. For 30 minutes, one task. No switching, no checking, no quick detours. No pretending that one message will only take 5 seconds. Stay with the target. Then increase the block. 45 minutes, 60 minutes, longer when your ability improves. You are training attention. Just like physical strength, concentration improves through repeated practice. At first, staying with one difficult task may feel uncomfortable. Good. Do not immediately escape that discomfort. Your brain has been trained to expect stimulation. You are retraining it to tolerate depth. That discomfort is not proof that deep work is impossible. It is proof that your attention needs conditioning. And remember this, you don't need their permission. You don't need permission to focus. You don't need permission to put your phone away. You don't need permission to stop responding instantly. You don't need permission to finish one important thing before touching another. Your work deserves your full attention. Your goals deserve your full attention. Your future deserves your full attention. This is not about perfection. You will still have interruptions. You will still have emergencies. You will still have multiple responsibilities. The goal is not to eliminate every transition. The goal is to stop turning unnecessary switching into a lifestyle. It's not about multitasking. It's about discipline. Discipline means deciding what matters now and refusing to abandon it for something less important. So today, choose one demanding task. Define one clear outcome. Set one uninterrupted block. Stay with it. Finish something. Then do it again tomorrow. Because the person who can hold attention on one valuable target longer than everyone else has an advantage. Not because they are magically more talented, because they are harder to distract. And in a world competing for your attention, that's power. One target, one block, one result. Stop multitasking. Stop confusing movement with progress. Stop allowing every new stimulus to redirect your mind. You have a choice. Protect your focus. Protect your work. Protect your future. Because when you stop splitting your attention, you finally give your best thinking a chance to do its best work. But there's another force constantly fighting for that attention. It vibrates, it flashes, it rings, and it waits for you to surrender.
Chapter 3. Stop letting notifications control you. Your phone does not need to be in your hand to control your attention. It only needs to be nearby. A sound, a vibration, a glowing screen, a red notification badge, a small banner appearing at the top of the display, and suddenly your mind moves. That is the problem. You may not even open the notification. You may tell yourself, "I'll check it later," but part of your attention has already moved toward it. What was it? Who sent it? Is it important? Should it be answered? What if it is urgent?
That tiny question creates mental noise, and mental noise destroys deep concentration. Your attention is valuable. Stop giving it away for free. Think about what happens when you are doing difficult work. You are finally focused. The idea is becoming clear. The solution is beginning to appear. Then your phone vibrates. You look, only for a second. Maybe it is a group chat. Maybe it is a social media alert. Maybe it is an email. Maybe it is something completely unimportant. But the damage has already happened. You broke the state of concentration. Now you have to rebuild it. And this happens repeatedly, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. The individual interruptions may seem tiny. The total cost is not. That is the hidden danger. You don't need a 3-hour interruption to destroy a productive afternoon. You need dozens of tiny interruptions. Every interruption takes something. Every distraction leaves a residue. And eventually something even more dangerous happens. You develop the notification reflex. A sound occurs. You reach for the phone. A vibration happens. You check the screen. You see a badge. You open the app. You do not stop to ask whether the information matters. You simply react. Reaction becomes automatic. Automatic becomes habitual. Habitual becomes identity. Now you are not choosing to check. You are trained to check. That's the key. Repeated behavior teaches the brain what to expect. If every moment of boredom is followed by a phone, if every difficult task is interrupted by a notification, if every uncomfortable thought is escaped through digital stimulation, then your brain begins expecting instant novelty. Deep work starts feeling slow. Reading feels difficult. Thinking feels uncomfortable. Silence feels strange. And the moment something becomes difficult, your hand starts searching for the phone. That is not freedom, that is conditioning. But here's the truth. A notification is a request, not a command. Read that again. A notification is a request, not a command. The device is asking for your attention. You are not obligated to give it. That distinction changes everything. When your phone vibrates, you can ignore it. When a message arrives, you can answer later. When an app displays a badge, you can leave it there. When someone expects an immediate response, you can decide when to respond. You have a choice, and you do not need their permission. You do not need permission to silence your phone. You do not need permission to disable unnecessary alerts. You do not need permission to put your device in another room. You do not need permission to be unavailable for an hour. Your attention belongs to you, so reclaim it. Start with your notifications. Go through every application. Ask one question. Does this truly need to interrupt me? Not, is this useful? Not, do I like this app? Ask, does this deserve immediate access to my attention? Most things will fail that test. Turn off the noise. Keep only what genuinely requires immediate awareness. Then create communication windows. Maybe email gets checked at 9, again at 1, again at 4. Maybe messages are handled after your most demanding work is complete. The exact schedule is not the point. The principle is, you control the schedule, the device does not. This creates something powerful, predictability. Instead of wondering when the next interruption will arrive, you decide when communication happens. That gives your brain uninterrupted space, and uninterrupted space gives deep thinking somewhere to happen. Put your phone out of reach during deep work blocks, not face down, not beside the keyboard, not in your pocket, out of reach. Create physical distance, because discipline becomes easier when the environment supports it. You should not constantly fight temptation when you can simply remove the trigger. That's the key. Make distraction inconvenient. Make concentration convenient. Build an environment where the behavior you want becomes the easiest behavior to perform. And understand this clearly. It is not about the phone. It is about discipline. The phone is just the tool. The real battle is over attention. The person who controls attention controls the quality of their thinking. The person who controls the quality of their thinking controls the quality of their work, and the quality of their work shapes their future. So stop checking because something buzzed. Stop reacting because something flashed. Stop surrendering concentration because an application demanded attention. Your attention is valuable. Stop giving it away for free. You have a choice. Silence the noise. Protect the block. Do the important work, then respond on your terms. Because every time you decide not to react, you strengthen your ability to focus. Every time you ignore an unnecessary interruption, you build discipline. Every time you protect an hour of deep concentration, you reclaim part of your life. You control the schedule, the device does not. And once you stop letting notifications control you, another distraction is waiting. A distraction with no alert, no vibration, no sound, just an endless stream that tells you to keep scrolling.
Chapter 4. Stop Scrolling. Low-value entertainment can train low-value thinking. You tell yourself you're taking a break. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. You open your phone. One video. One post. One short clip. One more. Then another. You look at the clock. 30 minutes are gone. Sometimes an hour. And the strangest part is that you never consciously decided to spend that time. You simply kept going. That is the power of the endless scroll. There is no natural stopping point. There is no final page. There is no moment that tells you you are finished. The feed keeps moving. New content appears, new opinions, new videos, new arguments, new jokes, new outrage, new stimulation, and your brain keeps receiving something new. The scroll has no finish line. You have to create one. That is the first truth you need to understand. The problem is not entertainment itself. The problem is consumption without intention. There is a difference between choosing recreation and automatically reaching for stimulation. One is deliberate, the other is reactive. One restores you, the other can leave you mentally scattered. Think about what happens after an hour of random scrolling. Do you feel deeply rested? Sometimes, but often you feel strangely tired. You consumed hundreds of tiny pieces of information. You saw dozens of faces. You absorbed arguments you did not need. You watched content you will forget tomorrow. And somehow your mind is still restless. That's because not all leisure is rest. Some forms of entertainment simply keep the brain busy. Busy is not the same as recovered. That's the key. Recovery gives the mind space. Constant stimulation fills every empty space, and that creates another problem. You become less comfortable with boredom. The moment nothing is happening, you reach for your phone. Waiting in line? Phone. Sitting alone? Phone. Walking somewhere? Phone. Eating? Phone. Before bed? Phone. You're training your brain to believe that every empty moment must be filled. That sounds harmless. It is not, because deep thinking often begins in empty moments. Ideas need space. Reflection needs space. Problem-solving needs space. Creativity needs space. And when every quiet moment is immediately filled with stimulation, you remove the very environment where deeper thinking can develop. Boredom is not an emergency. Read that carefully. Boredom is not an emergency. You do not have to escape it. You can experience it. You can sit with it. You can let the mind settle. You can let your thoughts appear without immediately drowning them in digital noise. This is where discipline begins. You have a choice. You can keep reaching for stimulation, or you can train yourself to tolerate stillness. Start small. Take a 10-minute walk without your phone in your hand. No scrolling, no endless feed. Just walk. Look around. Think.
Or sit for 10 minutes without opening an app. Let your mind wander. Notice how quickly your brain demands stimulation. That discomfort is useful. Do not immediately obey it. Stay there. You are training. Train your mind to stay still. Train your mind to think. And understand something important. You do not need their permission. You do not need permission to stop participating in every conversation online. You do not need permission to leave the feed. You do not need permission to protect your attention. You do not need permission to be bored. Your attention is yours. Protect it. Now create a rule for scrolling. Do not open a platform without knowing why. If you're going online to post something, post it. If you're going online to answer a message, answer it. If you're intentionally watching something for 20 minutes, set the boundary before you begin. Do not enter an infinite feed with an undefined amount of time. That's how 5 minutes becomes an hour. The scroll has no finish line. You have to create one. Use a timer. Set a stopping point. Remove the app from your home screen. Log out. Delete the apps that consistently consume more time than they provide value. Make distraction harder. Make deliberate leisure easier. Read a book. Take a walk. Exercise. Talk to someone. Sit quietly. Work on a hobby. Listen to music without simultaneously scrolling another feed. Do something that actually allows the mind to recover. Because rest should restore your capacity to focus. It should not simply provide more stimulation. It's not about entertainment, it's about discipline. The goal is not to eliminate enjoyment. The goal is to stop using stimulation as an automatic response to every uncomfortable moment. You can enjoy entertainment, you can watch videos, you can use social media, but you decide when, you decide why. You decide how long. You have a choice, and every time you resist the urge to scroll, you strengthen that choice. Every time you sit through boredom without escaping, you increase your tolerance for discomfort. Every time you protect a quiet moment, you create space for thought. That's how attention gets stronger. That's how deep work becomes easier. That's how you stop being controlled by the need for constant stimulation. So stop scrolling without a purpose. Stop filling every empty moment. Stop confusing stimulation with recovery. The scroll has no finish line. You have to create one. Your mind does not need more noise. It needs space. It needs stillness. It needs depth. Train your mind to stay still. Train your mind to think. Because when you can sit quietly without reaching for stimulation, you become much harder to distract. And that matters. Because the next enemy of deep work is not your phone, your feed, or your notifications. It's something that often walks straight into your schedule through the words, "Sure, no problem."
Chapter 5. Stop saying yes to every interruption. Here is a productivity mistake that looks like kindness. You say yes. Yes, I can attend the meeting. Yes, I can take a look. Yes, I can answer that now. Yes, I can help. Yes, just send it over. You keep saying yes, and then you wonder why your important work never gets finished. That is the trap. Every request sounds small. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, a quick meeting, a quick conversation, a quick favor, a quick reply. But your attention does not reset instantly when the interruption ends. That is what makes interruptions so expensive. You leave one task, you handle something else, then you return, but part of your mind is still processing the previous conversation, the new request, the unfinished obligation, or the next thing waiting for your response. Your calendar may show a few minutes, your brain pays much more. Every yes spends your attention, and attention is limited. You only have so much deep concentration available in a day. So when you give that concentration away casually, something important loses it. Maybe it is the project that could advance your career. Maybe it is the exam you need to prepare for. Maybe it's the business idea you keep postponing. Maybe it's the book you are writing. Maybe it's the design project that requires uninterrupted creative thought. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you may be saying no to something important. That's the key. Your priorities are not determined only by what you say yes to. They are also determined by what you allow to interrupt them. Think about a manager who spends the entire morning answering questions. By noon, every small issue has been handled, but the strategic plan remains untouched. Think about a student who keeps helping friends with assignments while their own examination preparation keeps getting pushed back. Think about an entrepreneur who spends hours responding to every message but never gets enough uninterrupted time to build the actual business. Think about a designer who keeps stopping creative work to answer every client question the moment it arises. Think about a writer who interrupts every writing session to respond to every email. Everyone looks available, everyone looks helpful, everyone looks busy, but the important work remains unfinished. Busy is not the same as productive. You need to understand that your most valuable work often requires something ordinary interruptions cannot provide: time, silence, continuity, and concentration. Important work needs protected time, not leftover time. Protected time. That difference matters. Don't wait until everything else is finished before starting your most important task. Everything else is rarely finished. There will always be another message, another meeting, another request, another favor, another problem. You need to decide what matters before those demands arrive. Start your day by identifying the work that requires your highest level of thinking. Then protect it. Put it on the calendar. Treat it like an appointment, because it is an appointment with your future. And you don't need their permission. You don't need permission to decline a meeting that has no clear purpose. You don't need permission to answer a message later. You don't need permission to say, "I cannot take this on right now." You don't need permission to protect an hour of uninterrupted work. You have a choice, and that choice requires boundaries. Try this. Before saying yes to a request, pause. Ask, does this need to happen now? Does this need to be done by me? Does this support my highest priorities? If the answer is no, delay it, delegate it, decline it, or schedule it. Do not automatically absorb every demand. Automatic agreement is not discipline. Intentional agreement is discipline. And sometimes the strongest productivity decision is not what you do, it's what you refuse to do. You may worry that people will think you're difficult. You may worry they'll be disappointed. You may worry they'll stop asking. But listen carefully. Being constantly available does not automatically make you valuable. It can make you distracted. It can make you exhausted. It can make you ineffective. You don't need to be available every minute to be valuable. Read that again. You don't need to answer immediately to prove that you care. You don't need to attend every meeting to prove that you matter. You don't need to accept every request to prove that you're helpful. Your value is not measured by how quickly you abandon your priorities for someone else's. That's the key. Create communication windows. Create meeting boundaries. Create focused work blocks. Tell people when you're available. Tell them when you're not. And when necessary, put your devices on silent. Close the door. Set your status. Step away. Make your availability intentional. This is not selfishness, it's responsibility. Because unfinished, important work has consequences. The report stays unfinished. The business remains stuck. The project misses its deadline. The creative idea never becomes reality. The opportunity disappears. And all because your attention was continuously handed to other people. Every yes spends your attention, so spend it carefully. You have a choice. Say yes to what matters. Say no to what distracts. Delay what can wait. Protect what creates value. And stop measuring productivity by how many people can reach you. Measure it by what you actually accomplish. It's not about being unavailable. It's about discipline. Discipline means protecting the priorities that require your best thinking. Discipline means refusing to let every request become your responsibility. Discipline means understanding that your attention has a budget. Spend it where the return matters, because deep work cannot survive in a life where everyone gets unlimited access to you. You need boundaries. You need protected time. You need the courage to become temporarily unavailable. You don't need to be available every minute to be valuable. And once you learn to protect your time from other people's interruptions, another problem remains. You may finally have an uninterrupted hour, but what exactly are you doing with it? If the target is unclear, distraction will find its way back in.
Chapter 6. Stop working with no clear target. You sit down, you open the laptop, you have 3 tabs open, a notebook beside you, a drink beside you, your phone nearby, and you tell yourself, I'm going to work. Work on what? You are not sure. For how long? You have not decided. What does finished look like? You have no answer. That is where distraction enters, because when the target is unclear, almost anything can become an acceptable activity. You can check email, organize files, research something unrelated, change the font, rearrange the desktop, watch one video, reply to a message, open another tab, and convince yourself that you are still working. But vague work creates easy distraction. Clarity creates focus. That is the key. The brain works differently when it knows exactly what must be accomplished. Compare these 2 instructions. Work on the presentation, or complete slides 1 through 10 before noon. One is vague, the other is measurable. One gives distraction room to survive. The other gives your attention a target. This applies everywhere. A student does not sit down to study. The student decides, I will complete 20 pages and answer 15 practice questions. A writer does not sit down to write. The writer decides, I will finish the introduction and first section. A designer does not sit down to work on the brand. The designer decides, I will develop 3 logo concepts before the work block ends. A business owner does not sit down to work on the company. The owner decides, I will complete the proposal, review the numbers, and send the client update. Now there's a mission. Do not sit down to work. Sit down to accomplish something. That's the key. A clear target reduces unnecessary decisions. You don't have to keep asking yourself what to do next. You already know. That saves mental energy. It also exposes distraction faster. When the objective is clear, you can recognize what does not belong. If the mission is to finish 10 pages, social media does not belong. If the mission is to solve 15 problems, reorganizing your desktop does not belong. If the mission is to complete the proposal, checking random notifications does not belong. Clarity becomes a filter, and filters protect attention. Clarity creates focus. So before every serious work session, define 3 things. What is the target? What is the time block? What counts as finished? That is enough. For example, from 9 to 10, write the first 800 words. The session ends when the draft is complete. Now you know what the hour is for. You are no longer simply occupying time. You are producing an outcome. That difference changes everything. Because here's another productivity trap. People often measure effort instead of results. They say, I worked for 8 hours. That sounds impressive, but what was completed? How much useful work was produced? How many problems were solved? How many pages were finished? How many decisions were made? How much value was created? Those questions matter more. Hours do not prove productivity. Results do. You can sit at a desk for 10 hours and accomplish very little. You can spend 2 deeply focused hours producing something valuable.
The second person may have worked fewer hours, but they created more. That is what matters. This is not permission to become careless about effort. Effort matters, persistence matters, time matters, but effort without direction becomes wasted motion. Imagine driving for 6 hours without knowing where you were going. You were moving, you used fuel, you spent time, but you may be nowhere near your destination. Work can be exactly the same. Movement is not progress. Output is progress. So stop glorifying exhaustion. Stop saying, "At least I was busy." That phrase can hide a dangerous truth. Busy doing what? And toward what? Your job is not to fill the day. Your job is to move the mission forward. You have a choice. At the beginning of every important work block, decide the result. Write it down. Make it visible. Then work until the defined milestone is reached. Not until you feel motivated. Not until you get bored. Not until another task looks more exciting. Until the milestone is reached. That is discipline. And you don't need their permission. You don't need permission to structure your own work. You don't need permission to define what success looks like. You don't need permission to protect your highest value task. You decide, then execute. And when distractions appear, return to the mission. Your mind wanders? Return. A notification appears? Return. An unrelated thought appears? Return. You feel like checking something? Return. This is how focus is trained, not by never becoming distracted, by repeatedly returning to the target. One target, one block, one result. That's the key. And make your target realistic. Do not create a 10-hour fantasy schedule. Choose something concrete, something difficult enough to matter, something specific enough to measure. Then finish it. Completion builds momentum. Completion builds confidence. Completion proves that your attention can produce results. That's how you begin changing your relationship with work. You stop asking, "How long did I sit here?" You start asking, "What did I finish?" That question is powerful because it forces honesty. Maybe you spent 4 hours on the project, but if almost nothing meaningful was produced, something must change. Maybe you spent 90 minutes and completed the most important section. That's progress. The goal is not to look productive. The goal is to become productive. It's not about working longer. It's about working with discipline. Clear target, clear block, clear outcome. Repeat again and again until focused execution becomes normal. Because once you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, distraction becomes easier to identify. But there's another danger after the work is finished. You can complete the day, close the laptop, and still carry the work in your head. You can leave the desk physically while your mind stays trapped inside the unfinished tasks. That destroys recovery. And without recovery, tomorrow's focus becomes weaker.
You finished the work. The laptop is closed. The desk is empty, but your mind is still working. You're eating dinner and thinking about tomorrow's deadline. You're watching something and thinking about the email you have not answered. You're lying in bed and replaying the unfinished task. You wake up and check your phone before your feet touch the floor. Then you tell yourself you were disciplined because you were always working. No, you were always available. That is different. Constant work is not deep work. Deep work requires intense concentration, and intense concentration requires recovery. You cannot demand maximum mental performance from the brain every hour of the day and expect it to remain sharp. There is a difference between working deeply and remaining mentally trapped inside work. Deep work has boundaries. Constant work has none. Constant work says, check the message, review the email, think about the project,
Open the laptop again. Look at tomorrow's schedule. Check one more thing, then another. The workday never truly ends. And when the workday never ends, recovery never begins. That's the key. Your brain needs periods where it is not solving problems, not reacting to demands, and not preparing for the next interruption. Without that recovery, your mental energy becomes depleted. Your focus becomes weaker. Small distractions become more attractive. Difficult work becomes harder to start. And tomorrow becomes more difficult because you never completely recovered from today. Work hard, then stop working. That sentence sounds simple, but many people are afraid of it. They believe stopping means falling behind. They believe checking one more email is responsible. They believe answering one more message proves commitment. They believe thinking about work at midnight means they are serious. But there is a difference between commitment and constant mental availability. Commitment means doing the important work well. Constant availability means allowing work to occupy every empty space in your life. Those are not the same thing. Recovery is not laziness. Recovery protects performance. Think about an athlete. They do not train every muscle at maximum intensity every minute of the day. They train, then they recover, because recovery is part of performance. Your mind works the same way. You spend hours reading, planning, writing, designing, calculating, solving, creating, and deciding. Then you step away. You allow the mind to process. You create distance. You sleep. You walk. You talk. You rest. You do something that does not require constant cognitive effort. That is not wasted time. That is preparation for tomorrow. You have a choice. You can carry every unfinished task into your evening, or you can create a boundary. Start by deciding when work ends. Maybe it's 6 o'clock, maybe 7, maybe another time that fits your responsibilities. The exact hour matters less than the decision. Once the workday ends, stop checking unnecessary messages. Stop reopening the laptop. Stop scrolling through work platforms. Stop telling yourself that one more check will make you feel better. It usually won't. It simply keeps the mental loop alive, and that loop is exhausting. You need a shutdown ritual, not something complicated, something repeatable. At the end of the workday, review what was completed. Write down what remains unfinished. Capture any important thought you don't want to forget. Identify the first priority for tomorrow. Then say mentally and physically, work is finished for today. That statement creates closure. Without closure, the mind keeps reopening the task. What about this? Did I send that? What if I forget? What should I do tomorrow? Write it down. Capture it. Then release it. That's the purpose of the shutdown ritual. You are telling the brain the information is safe. The plan exists. You do not need to keep thinking about it tonight. The workday ends when you decide it ends. That's the key. You do not need their permission. You do not need permission to stop checking your inbox at night. You do not need permission to protect your evening. You do not need permission to rest. You do not need permission to put the phone down. You do not need permission to create a boundary around your attention. And understand this, rest does not mean you're falling behind. Sometimes rest is what prevents you from falling behind. A tired mind makes poor decisions. A distracted mind produces weaker work. An overloaded mind struggles to think creatively. A constantly stimulated mind struggles to concentrate. So if you want better focus tomorrow, recovery begins today. Create a closing time. Create a shutdown ritual. Create a physical transition. Leave the workspace. Take a walk. Exercise. Read something unrelated to work. Spend time with people. Sit quietly. Let your mind change modes. Do not carry every task into every room. Your bedroom does not need to become an office. Your dinner does not need to become a meeting. Your evening does not need to become another inbox. Protect the parts of your life that allow you to recover. It's not about working less, it's about working with discipline. Disciplined work has an ending. Disciplined rest has a purpose. And when you know the workday will end, you can focus more intensely while it's happening. You do not have to keep one eye on the future. You do not have to constantly worry that you are forgetting something. You capture it, you schedule it, you finish what you can, then you stop. Work hard, then stop working. That is not weakness, that is control. You have a choice. End the cycle of permanent availability. End the habit of checking after the work is done. End the belief that exhaustion proves dedication. Recover deliberately. Return tomorrow sharper. Return tomorrow calmer. Return tomorrow ready to focus. Because deep work is not just about how intensely you work. It's also about how completely you recover. The workday ends when you decide it ends. And once you learn to step away from work, another question becomes unavoidable. What about the tools surrounding your work? Because not every app, platform, device, or productivity system that promises convenience is actually helping you. Some are quietly stealing your attention.
Chapter 8. Stop confusing convenience with value. Not everything that makes life easier makes life better. Read that again. Because modern life is full of tools promising convenience, another app, another platform, another productivity system, another messaging service, another social network, another browser extension, another notification, another subscription. And the argument is always the same. This will make things easier. Maybe it will, but easier is not always better. Faster is not always better. More convenient is not always more valuable. Useful is not the same as necessary. That is the key. We live in a world where adding tools feels like progress. You want to become more productive? Download another productivity app. You want better communication? Add another messaging platform. You want more inspiration? Join another social network. You want to learn? Subscribe to another information source. You want to relax? Install another entertainment platform. Soon, your digital environment is packed. 5 calendars, 3 note-taking apps, 7 communication channels, multiple social platforms, dozens of browser tabs, countless passwords, constant alerts. And somehow you have less focus than before. Why? Because every tool has a cost. Every tool creates another place to check, another place to maintain, another place to remember, another place where information can interrupt you. Every tool has a productivity benefit. Every tool also has an attention cost. You need to see both. That is where many people fail. They ask only, what can this tool do for me? They never ask, what will this tool demand from me? That's the key. A messaging platform can help you communicate faster. It can also make you feel permanently reachable. A social media platform can help you build an audience. It can also consume hours of attention. A productivity app can help you organize tasks. It can also become another place to endlessly organize instead of execute. An entertainment platform can help you relax. It can also turn a 10-minute break into 2 hours. The tool is not automatically good or bad. The real question is what relationship you have with it. Do not ask what a tool can do. Ask what it is doing to you. Is it helping you produce something important? Is it helping you communicate something necessary? Is it helping you solve a real problem? Or is it simply giving you another source of stimulation? You have a choice. You do not need every tool available. You do not need to join every platform. You do not need to respond on every channel.
You do not need 5 different ways to do the same thing, and you do not need their permission to simplify your environment. Simplification is not falling behind. Simplification can be an advantage. The fewer places your attention can leak, the easier it becomes to protect it. So, start evaluating your tools. Take your phone, look at your apps, look at your browser, look at your subscriptions, look at your notifications. Ask 3 questions. Does this tool help me achieve an important goal? Does the benefit justify the attention it consumes? Would removing it significantly damage something I truly value? Be honest, not emotional, not sentimental, honest. If an app repeatedly gives you more distraction than value, remove it. If a platform consistently destroys your concentration, restrict it. If a service creates more obligations than benefits, stop using it. Protect the mission, remove the noise. That is discipline. And notice what this is not. It's not about becoming anti-technology. It's not about rejecting every modern convenience. It's not about living without useful tools. Technology can be incredibly powerful. The problem is passive adoption. You allow tools into your life without deciding what role they should play. Then the tool begins deciding the role for you. That's backwards. You should choose the tool. The tool should not choose your behavior. You have a choice. You can use social media intentionally. You can use messaging intentionally. You can use productivity software intentionally. You can use entertainment intentionally. The word is intentional. Before opening something, know why. Before installing something, know what problem it solves. Before keeping something, know what value it creates. And if the answer is unclear, that's information. You do not need another tool simply because everyone else has it. You do not need another platform because it's popular. You do not need another notification because it's available. You do not need another stream of content because you're bored. You need a system that protects your priorities. That's the key. Try a digital audit once a month. Delete what is unnecessary, disable what is distracting, unsubscribe from what creates noise, consolidate tools that perform the same function, move distracting apps away from your home screen, log out of platforms you use compulsively, create boundaries around entertainment. Make your environment reflect your goals, because environment matters. When distraction is everywhere, focus requires constant resistance. When distraction is reduced, focus becomes easier. Do not make discipline harder than it needs to be. Create friction, create distance, create boundaries. You do not need their permission. You do not need permission to delete the app. You do not need permission to stop responding instantly. You do not need permission to leave a platform. You do not need permission to simplify your digital life. The goal is not to own fewer tools for the sake of owning fewer tools. The goal is to protect more attention for what actually matters. That distinction is everything. It's not about technology, it's about discipline. It's not about having more, it's about choosing better. It's not about convenience, it's about value. Because every tool you keep has a place in your life. Make sure it deserves that place. Useful is not the same as necessary. Protect your attention. Protect your time. Protect the work that matters. Protect the mission. Remove the noise. You have a choice. And once you start removing the tools that weaken your focus, you will discover something deeper. The biggest distraction may not be the tools around you. It may be the way your brain has been trained to crave constant stimulation. You may have taught your mind to expect something new every few seconds, and now you have to retrain it.
Chapter 9. Stop training your brain to need constant stimulation. Your brain learns what you repeatedly give it. That is the uncomfortable truth. If you repeatedly interrupt yourself, your brain learns interruption. If you repeatedly check your phone, your brain learns checking. If you repeatedly scroll whenever you feel bored, your brain learns escape. If you repeatedly switch between tasks, your brain learns switching. And eventually, distraction stops feeling like a behavior. It starts feeling normal. That is dangerous, because what feels normal is often what has been practiced the longest. What you repeatedly practice becomes your default. Think about what happens when you sit down to read something difficult. You get through 3 pages. You feel slightly uncomfortable. The information requires effort. Your phone is nearby. You reach for it. A few minutes later, you return. Then the work becomes difficult again. You reach for stimulation again. Soon, your brain begins learning a pattern. Difficulty equals escape. Boredom equals stimulation. Silence equals checking. Effort equals interruption. And that pattern becomes automatic. You stop asking whether the distraction is useful. You simply obey the urge. That is how distraction becomes a skill. Not a skill you intentionally wanted, a skill you accidentally practiced. And this explains why deep concentration can feel difficult. Maybe the problem is not that you cannot focus. Maybe you have spent years training the opposite ability. You trained yourself to break concentration. Now you must train yourself to sustain it. Focus is not found. Focus is trained. That is the key. Concentration is not some magical gift reserved for unusually disciplined people. It is a capacity, and capacities can be strengthened, but they must be trained. You do not build focus by waiting for the perfect mood. You build it by practicing focus when the work is difficult. Start small. Choose one task. Set a timer for 20 minutes. During those 20 minutes, nothing else gets your attention. No phone, no social media, no unnecessary tabs, no checking, no multitasking, just the task. At first, 20 minutes may feel long. Good. Stay with it. Your mind will wander. Return. You will feel the urge to check something. Do not obey immediately. Return. You will become bored. Stay. Return. This is training. Then increase the duration. 30 minutes, 45, 60, eventually 90 minutes or more, depending on the work and your experience. You are building attention through repetition. And remember, you have a choice. The urge to check is not a command. The urge to scroll is not a command. The urge to escape difficult work is not a command. You can notice the urge without obeying it. That's discipline. You are teaching your brain a new response. Instead of, I am bored, so I need stimulation, you teach, I am bored, so I can continue. Instead of, this is difficult, so I should switch tasks, you teach, this is difficult, so I should concentrate. Instead of, I need to check something, you teach, I can finish this first. That's the key. Every time you resist unnecessary stimulation, you strengthen your ability to resist it again. Every time you stay with a difficult task, staying becomes easier. Every time you protect an uninterrupted block, concentration becomes more familiar. The process is gradual. Do not expect your brain to become perfectly focused overnight. You trained the old pattern for years. Give the new pattern time to develop. And make your environment support the training. Keep the phone away. Silence unnecessary notifications. Remove distracting apps. Create specific communication windows. Choose clear work targets. Protect deep work periods. End the workday deliberately. All of the previous chapters now connect. You stop checking everything. You stop multitasking. You stop letting notifications dictate your attention. You stop scrolling whenever boredom appears. You stop saying yes to every interruption. You stop working without a clear target. You stop carrying work into every moment. You stop keeping unnecessary tools that create noise. And then you train your brain to operate differently. That is how deep work becomes a system. Not a temporary challenge, not a motivational phase, a system. Protect your attention, train your attention, direct your attention. That is the formula. And something powerful happens when you do it consistently. Deep concentration becomes less uncomfortable. You begin entering focused states faster. You become less dependent on stimulation. You become more comfortable with silence. You become more capable of staying with difficult problems. You become harder to distract. And that creates an advantage, because look around. Everyone is competing for attention. Every platform wants it. Every notification wants it. Every advertisement wants it. Every message wants it. Every algorithm wants it. Everyone wants another piece. The person who cannot control attention is constantly pulled in different directions. The person who can control attention can choose where to go. When everyone is distracted, disciplined attention becomes power. That's why deep work matters. Not because working quietly sounds impressive, because concentration creates leverage. A focused hour can produce more value than several scattered hours. A focused thinker can solve problems that a distracted thinker never stays with long enough to solve. A focused creator can produce work that constant stimulation prevents others from producing. This is not about being smarter, it's about staying with the problem, staying with the page, staying with the design, staying with the idea, staying when it becomes uncomfortable. You do not need their permission. You do not need permission to protect your attention. You do not need permission to be unreachable for a while. You do not need permission to choose silence over stimulation. You do not need permission to do difficult work without interruption. Your attention is yours. Use it deliberately. And understand the deeper principle. It is not about eliminating distraction, it's about discipline. Distraction will always exist. The world will always make noise. The phone will always offer another notification. The internet will always offer another video. The feed will always offer another post. You cannot control the existence of distraction. You can control your relationship with it. That is the key. You decide what deserves your attention. You decide when to respond. You decide when to disconnect. You decide what to work on. You decide when to stop. You decide what deserves your best thinking. That's freedom. And freedom requires discipline. So start today. Choose one meaningful task. Remove the distractions. Set the timer. Stay. Do not run when boredom appears. Do not escape when the work becomes difficult. Stay. Focus. Return when your mind wanders. Do it again tomorrow, then again and again, until deep concentration stops feeling unusual, until silence stops feeling uncomfortable, until focus becomes familiar, until discipline becomes your default. What you repeatedly practice becomes your default. Train distraction, and distraction becomes easier. Train focus, and focus becomes stronger. Train depth, and depth becomes your advantage. Focus is not found. Focus is trained. And when you train it long enough, you reach the final step. Not simply learning how to focus, not simply learning how to avoid distraction, but building an entire life around protecting your most valuable resource, your attention. Because your attention determines what you think about. What you think about determines what you work on. What you work on determines what you produce. And what you produce shapes the life you eventually live. When everyone is distracted, disciplined attention becomes power. You have a choice. Protect that power. Because the final question is no longer how do I avoid distraction? The final question is, what deserves your best of attention?
Chapter 10. Choose Depth.
Your attention will decide your future. Here is the final truth. Your attention is not just something you use. Your attention is what you give your life to. Every day, something receives it. A phone, a notification, a social media feed, other people's demands, random conversations, meaningless entertainment, or your goals, your work, your relationships, your growth, your future. You may think time is your most valuable resource, but time alone is not enough. An hour with scattered attention can produce almost nothing. An hour with total concentration can produce something that changes everything. That is why attention matters. Where your attention goes, your future follows. Look at your current habits. What receives your attention every morning? What receives your attention during your workday? What receives your attention when you are bored? What receives your attention when something becomes difficult? What receives your attention before you sleep? Those answers reveal something important. They reveal what you are actually prioritizing, not what you say matters. What you repeatedly pay attention to, because attention creates exposure. Exposure creates thought. Thought influences action. Action creates results, and results shape your life. That's the key. Your future is being built by what you repeatedly choose to notice, think about, and work on. So what are you building? Are you building knowledge? Are you building a career? Are you building a business? Are you building a skill? Are you building meaningful relationships? Are you building something that will still matter 5 years from now? Or are you building a stronger habit of distraction? Because distraction is not neutral. Every hour spent reacting is an hour that cannot be spent creating. Every interruption accepted is an interruption that could have been avoided. Every meaningless scroll is time that cannot be recovered. And the scary part is that most people do not lose their future through one dramatic decision. They lose it through thousands of tiny attention decisions. One notification, one interruption, one unnecessary meeting, one endless scroll, one quick check, one more tab, one more excuse, repeated, daily, year after year. That is how potential disappears, quietly. But the same principle works in your favor. Small acts of focus also compound. One focused hour, one finished chapter, one completed project, one uninterrupted study session, one difficult problem solved, one distraction resisted, repeated, daily, year after year. That becomes mastery. That becomes progress. That becomes a different life. You have a choice, and now you know what that choice looks like. You stop checking everything. You stop multitasking. You stop letting notifications control the rhythm of your day. You stop scrolling whenever boredom appears. You stop saying yes to every interruption. You stop beginning work without a clear target. You stop carrying work into every moment. You stop keeping tools that consume more attention than they create value. And you train your brain to tolerate concentration. That is the system. Protect attention, direct attention, recover attention, repeat. This is what a deep work life looks like. It does not mean sitting in silence for 16 hours. It does not mean eliminating every form of entertainment. It does not mean becoming unavailable forever. It means deciding what deserves your best attention. It means setting boundaries around what does not. It means making your important work harder to interrupt and easier to begin. Do less, but do it deeply. That principle can transform your day. You do not need 10 priorities. Choose the few things that matter. You do not need constant activity. Choose meaningful action. You do not need to respond to everything. Choose what deserves a response. You do not need to consume everything. Choose what makes you better.
You do not need to chase every opportunity. Choose the opportunities aligned with your direction. Depth requires exclusion. You cannot give everything your best, so stop pretending that you can. That is not weakness, that is reality. You cannot focus on everything, so decide what deserves your focus. That's the key. Now make this personal. Identify your most destructive distraction habit. Maybe it is checking your phone. Maybe it is social media. Maybe it is constant messaging. Maybe it is multitasking. Maybe it is saying yes to everyone. Maybe it is endless research. Maybe it is working without a clear target. Maybe it is carrying work into the night. Choose one, not 7, one, and attack it today. Disable the notifications, delete the application, schedule the communication, block the time, set the target, move the phone, create the boundary. Do something physical, do something measurable. Do not simply promise yourself that you will focus more. That's too vague. Make a change you can see, because transformation requires action. You don't need their permission. You do not need permission to protect your attention. You do not need permission to become harder to distract. You do not need permission to say no. You do not need permission to put the phone away. You do not need permission to work quietly. You do not need permission to choose depth over noise. Your attention is yours. Treat it like it matters. And remember the deeper lesson. Productivity is not about filling every minute. It is not about doing more things. It is not about appearing busy. It is not about being constantly available. It is not about having the most apps. It is not about surviving on 4 hours of sleep because you couldn't stop working. It is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters with discipline. That's the difference. Deep work is not merely a productivity technique. It is a philosophy of attention, a decision about what deserves your mind, a decision about what deserves your energy, a decision about what deserves your life. So protect the mission, remove the noise, choose the target, do the work, finish, recover, repeat. And when the world tries to pull your attention in 100 directions, remember, you do not have to follow. When the phone vibrates, you can wait. When the feed calls, you can close it. When an unnecessary request arrives, you can decline. When boredom appears, you can stay. When the work becomes difficult, you can continue. When your mind wanders, you can return. Again and again and again. That is discipline. That is focus. That is deep work. Where your attention goes, your future follows. So where will you send it? What will you build with it? What will you become because you protected it? Those questions are yours to answer. No algorithm can answer them for you. No notification can answer them for you. No productivity app can answer them for you. You must decide. You have a choice. Choose less noise. Choose fewer interruptions. Choose deeper concentration. Choose better work. Choose genuine recovery. Choose deliberate action. Choose control. Because your attention is shaping your future whether you realize it or not. The only question is whether you are directing it or surrendering it. So start today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Protect your attention, protect your work, protect your future. That is the choice. Make it today, and keep making it every single day. Your productivity does not need more noise, it needs more focus. Stop checking everything, stop multitasking, stop allowing notifications to command your attention, stop scrolling whenever boredom appears, stop accepting every interruption, stop working without a clear target, stop carrying work into every moment, stop filling your life with tools, inputs, and stimulation that steal more than they give. Deep work begins when distraction ends.
Your attention is not an unlimited resource. Every hour spent reacting is an hour that cannot be spent creating. Every interruption has a cost. Every distraction is a vote for the life you are building. So choose differently. Protect your attention. Schedule your focus. Train your concentration. Remove what does not matter. Do the difficult work. Then recover completely. You have a choice. Today, choose depth over distraction. Choose focus over reaction. Choose meaningful progress over meaningless activity. And when you're ready to build a mind that can do more, create more, and become more, stay with MindShift Audiobooks. Like this video, subscribe to MindShift Audiobooks, and keep